used to climb in trees when I was younger. Haven't done it in a while, and this tree is kind of like falling, so kind of climbed up on it, sitting on it and everything. So I'm on it now, and I figured this would be a good step to talk about the fourth book. Oh, not the fourth book, sorry. The eighth book I read or listened to. And holy crap, my phone's dying, so we're going to do this fast. Okay, this is the, let me scroll up so I can tell you what the name of the book is and who wrote it. This is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, right? I'm going to go through this fast because I want to give you all the juicy parts about this book. So this is like another political part of the book, right? Another book that was like fictional, but it was political, and they made TV shows on this and probably movies too, but I know like a TV show just came out about that one. So the Tyrant isolation of stripping away diversification and placing women into strict roles to be subject as only reproductive vassals, forced into sexual servitude to repopulate a devastated, diseased, alternative universe of America named Gilead. Hopefully I said that right. So that's basically like the whole theme of the book. You have to be willing to give up everything in order to create a better world. So you can't be afraid to speak up and in the face of injustice when the movement of change is the bigger picture. So like a lot of parts in the story, you hear the woman, I think her name is like, I forgot her name, like Offred or something like that, and who's like the main character. And essentially she's like very passive throughout the book. And she wants to escape this like life of servitude, but she doesn't really do anything. It's like people around her are the ones who are courageous enough to risk their lives and speak up on the injustice that eventually save her, right? There's a lot of stuff that happens in the book, so you should definitely read it because it's just a lot of craziness. Speak up in the sight of tyrants. Speak up in the face of injustice in your workplace. Stand tall even in the heartache of your home. The sum may be few, but the noise will be many, right? So once again, there's like a lot of different like movements and stuff that are going on, like the Me Too, and any movement kind of like basically starts like with a few people. Like that's what that meant. And through the book, there were like a few people that are willing to speak up against the vast majority, and then their movement of their noise encouraged the people that had the voice inside them to want to say something, but they couldn't get the words out. So when they saw like 2-3 people stand up, they were like, oh, it's our time, we got to stand up. They encouraged us to do this. If we don't fight now, we'll never get out of this injustice. So that's basically what that meant. Your life can be dramatically changed overnight. Facts. There's countries that like were just gone in one day. Like Rome like basically fell apart in one day. Like Pompeii just like was devastated in one day. The Mayan Empire was just like gone basically overnight. Like there's so many different things that happen overnight, right? Be able to adapt. That's another part in the story. Be wary of who you trust, right? And tyrants accompany silence, so do not stop screaming. So, or I rewrote that one. I basically said like, tyrants accompany silence, so don't stop yelling. Essentially, that's how I rewrote it. I just got to put it on this side of the notes. And it's true because when you're like in a country of like tyrants, like probably like what, North Korea and a bunch of other places that are going through this where they reign over you, and they want to put hush hush on the people that are talking up about what's happening. And those people who speak up about it will then shed light that there is something wrong with how we're doing things. And then this is something I wrote that I was talking about earlier. Reading begets knowledge. Writing creates ideas. Speech orchestrates actions. Like that's very powerful. So that's why I was saying in the book, the women they were stripped of their titles of being a woman and being equal in the diversified in fields of jobs, and stripped of their titles, forced into servitude to serve the masses to repopulate the world. Everyone had like different classes. So like if you were like gay, if you were like a non-believer, if you of this new form, if you were of a different religion and you didn't want to conform to their religion, they basically either killed you or put you in a lower class and you basically like anyone could just rape you and reproduce the world because they were doing it just because of that. And that you could not basically say that a man was fertile. I mean, that was sterile, because if you did, then they could just kill you. Like basically like the witch trials that happened back in Boston and in Salem. So, you know, just because you said she's a witch, oh, now she dies. So that's basically how like a part of this was like formulated. Just because she didn't get pregnant, even though she's fertile, you might not be. And so, but you can't say that. So then those women should just be killed. So like these women were forced to go into like sleeping with other people to satisfy getting their husband pregnant to repopulate the higher class of people in different levels and classes. So like you can read the book or watch the movie. And basically I wrote that part because the woman in the book was like, they didn't know how to read. They didn't know how to write. They weren't allowed to do any of that. And they weren't allowed to have voices. They weren't allowed to have speech. So when the women that did speak up, they orchestrated actions to create a ripple effect into the other women that were finally ready to then take up arms and fight. And then the women who didn't know how to write, they say that you can enslave people by taking away their power of knowledge, right? So if they don't know how to read and write, they can't communicate. So that was another form to enslave them in their sexual servitude to then be a servant. And that's why they're handmaided. Which is, there's a bunch of different terminology on it. You can look it up, but I just wanted to film the part of that book. So it's a lot of political things that are happening in that book. But it basically just taught me that, you know, you need to speak up. You can't allow to be, don't be a victim. And if you see something that's not right and you know it's not right, then speak up.